Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker's conflict is rooted in a question which is simultaneously ancient and contemporary. How should one relate to a natural order in which suffering is inevitable? It addresses this question, fittingly enough, through two figures from its lore's antiquity, each of which represent the logical conclusion of one of two potential responses, and the protégés that carry their legacy into the present. And just as fittingly, their conflict reflects the core structure of the biblical fall of man. The fall of Amarat, like the fall of man, is the result of a temptation in a garden. In Elpis as in Eden, mankind possesses full mastery over the rest of creation, yet remains unsatisfied. To be fair, Hermes might not appear on first glance to share much in common with Eve. He's cynical and world-weary, not innocent and naive. But once one considers his rationale, it becomes clear that this is because he's already succumbed to the serpent's temptation. What has rendered Hermes incapable of enjoying the same earthly paradise as everyone else in Amarat? He'd listened to the beasts. He hadn't needed a talking snake to trick him. The problem of animal suffering that he'd encountered in his research had seized hold of him so thoroughly that he'd started questioning the goodness of the cosmos. Having lost faith in the intrinsic value of the natural order, he'd begun to seek a justification for suffering capable of satisfying him personally. In other words, he'd already claimed the right to judge good and evil for himself. As one might expect, given the Edenic framework, the consequences of this arrogance are catastrophic. Hermes creates an angelic networked consciousness and sends it across the sea of stars to seek answers, and it mutates into a demon of despair that judges the natural order as irredeemable and seeks to annihilate all creation. To treat the cosmos as subject to judgment, Endwalker suggests, guarantees a negative judgment, ending ultimately in omnicidal despair. And that's how paradise is lost. What alternative does Endwalker offer to a doubt like Hermes that terminates in despair? Only an accidental deity named Vena. Amarat is a utopian society. This is underscored by names drawn from St. Thomas More's Utopia and close parallels with J.R.R. Tolkien's version of Atlantis, the utopian city of Numenor, where men grew to enormous stature, demonstrated supernatural creative abilities, and possessed such long and satisfying lifespans that they accepted death as a welcome rest after the fulfillment of their duties, which ultimately fell to bloody catastrophe as a result of its rejection of the natural order. In the light of paradise, Amarat's utopianism may seem a lot more positive than Hermes' doubt, but the moment suffering hits closer to home, it proves equally destructive. Seeking to rewrite the natural order to recover paradise accomplishes nothing, and its inevitable failure precipitates ever more spectacular acts of human sacrifice, ultimately guaranteeing the victory of despair and the utter annihilation that entails. Understanding that despair is the true enemy of mankind, Vena forces humanity to confront it directly. In choosing to sunder Aetheris, Vena chooses to birth a world of suffering to mire and plague. But as much as the Ascians despise the newly minted incarnation of the natural order for it, she has no desire to harm them, and her choice is no less traumatic for her than for mankind. Why would Vena willingly breathe fire and torment through age upon age of agony? Because she alone has found meaning and purpose in something sufficiently solid to sustain such a sacrifice.
Lands that stretched on forever. Skies one could drown in. The heartbeat of nature, silent yet strong. And amidst it all, a people. Beacons of light and life. Laughter that warmed my heart like naught else before. They are my meaning and my purpose. My love. In spite of, or perhaps because of this, I choose to believe in mankind's potential, in his ability to find a way forward. So let there be no way back. From that temptation, I sunder us. No more shall man have wings to bear him to paradise. Henceforth, he shall walk.
Vena blocks the Ascian's desired return to paradise with the flaming sword because she loves both the natural order and mankind, and neither can be saved without bitter medicine as long as the specter of despair roams free. She might not be as empathetic as Hades and Medeon, but empathy like theirs makes the suffering of others unbearable, and ultimately renders the most transcendent form of love impossible. Rather, Vena desires the good of those she loves and accepts even the most intense suffering as the cost of securing that good. Love that transcends emotion, that insists that the cosmos is worth preserving, no matter how much suffering that entails. This, it seems, is the sole factor by which Atheris can be differentiated from every other civilization Medeon saw fall to despair, the sole factor which can thereby justify its survival. And it's the only real answer Endwalker offers to the question of how to respond to ultimate final despair. It's too bad that when asked to justify themselves directly, the Scions insisted on missing that point, but that's a concern for a different video. Thematic inconsistencies aside, Endwalker's tale of the fall of Amarat provides legitimate insight into the proper human response to suffering.